You ready to get going?
Yeah, let's go.
Are you nervous?
I'm not.
What the fuck would ever make you nervous, honestly?
Well, I used to be public speaking. I used to get so nervous to the point of vomiting for about the first 10,000 people that I led to. But after about 10,000, it started to go away. And after I hit, I don't know, somewhere around 15,000, it stopped being a thing. That was not a wheelhouse. That was something that I needed to invent to fulfill purposes.
All right. Hi, everyone. This is Trevor Halpern, and this is the What's Halperning Podcast. Again, these are our abbreviated Zoom versions. I'm calling them the Covid Chronicles. These are the shorter versions of I'm having the guests on that I plan on having on for the full versions. And today I am honored to have my friend, to have my one of my mentors, to have my brother from another mother, my business coach, my executive coach, Zanzibar Vermiglio, on here. A lot of you out there have heard me say this name and refer to him as the man from the future. So thank you for coming back to modern times from the future to join me on this.
Why am I the man from the future? I've never heard this before.
Your name, like the whole thing, dude. Like, okay, so here's how I describe it. All right. When I talk about you, people are like, oh, Zanzibar. And I'm like, right? He sounds like he's from the future. And people are like, yeah, he does. And I'm like, he kind of is. Like, you to me are like Rufus in what's the movie with Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, where he steps out of the frickin' phone booth and is like, hey, you two are going to be great. Come with me. You ready? And they're like, yeah. And that's kind of what you do. You're like, listen, man, you got some potential. You're going to be awesome. And this is going to be easy. Just come with me. So I jumped in the phone booth with Zanzibar. A year and a half or 2 years later, here we are.
I do have the benefit of being able to choose who I work with. I can be choosy a little bit. I do have that benefit. And I don't know, I tell people I live in an ivory tower. I talk with some of the best people I've ever met in life, some of the best people I believe in North America or planet Earth for the people I work with overseas. I work with really, really, really terrific, heart-forward, higher conscious people and create architectures for win at things, and then they win at things. Well, how could they do anything but win at things? They're amazing people. And then I have the satisfaction of watching things bloom and grow and be amazing all the time. And hardly ever a space of judgment or concern or worry. It's all just building things that are amazing and winning at life. I live in this ivory tower. It is so not reality.
No, but it is. And that's, dude, I mean, we just had a coaching call. We just got off and then get on this. And one of the last things that we talked about is like, I get to do this. I get to build things the way I want to build them and serve me and my family the way I want them served. And it's so cool and it's so empowering. But to what you said, it's all from higher consciousness. Like your whole thing, like the way you've taught me how to be a manager and an employer is like, you have to, the biggest component is holding their future honorably in your hand. Like, so it's not like I'm going to plug this employee in and I'm going to pay them $30,000. I'm going to make 65 on them and I'm stacking more chips. So I'm winning. That is like never once been any part of the discussion. It's like, you are excited for me to keep bringing people into the fold so that I can help them to grow and realize their potential and then kick them the hell out of the nest and say, go get it. Like, that the way that you're able to pass that along, not only to me, but however many other clients you have, so that they're living their life as a manager and employer to help empower people and help them reach their potential is so cool. And you've told me, like, just wait, and as you see that happen with your employees, as you take this mold of clay and you help mold it, but then they mold themselves and they just go off and hit. Like, it's so empowering. You come from a space of empowerment. And I feel with you sitting in front of your P-51 Mustang when we're on our calls, I feel empowered. I literally feel like I can do, if I have an opportunity, whatever, listing subdivisions or something that I've never done, it's like, well, I'll just call Zans. We'll build an architecture for it. We'll do it.
Right. That's right. And if you think there's for sure what people want. You want your business to produce X, Y, and Z in terms of income, quality of life for your family, and quality of life for yourself. So there are things you take into account when you're building an architecture for a company. But never forgetting that the business exists to make an impact in life. The business does not exist to pay bills. The business does not exist to send people to college. The business does not exist to give you what you want. The business exists to create something in the marketplace and to create something for employees and to create something in the world. And that quality of something being brought to the world is what buys you the ticket for all the other things that you want. Money always follows value. So if you keep your attention on the generation of value, but beyond that, if you can keep your attention on what is the developmental, what develops me next, what should I be holding next, you'll see so many entrepreneurs get stuck in whatever phase of development they ended up in where they were effective. So a lot of entrepreneurs end up stuck in not ever really being able to translate the intentions that they have for their business through other people. They just do it themselves, and they're really good doers, which is great. You have to, action is the only thing that produces results. So you have to be connected to action, and you have to be really good at taking actions. And most entrepreneurs never scale. What's the next phase of my development? Because they're able to make ends meet just being a really good doer. Well, to have things scale, just being good at doing things doesn't buy you a ticket into the next level. The next level is, can I be the author of other people's performance? And then how much of a leader can I become? And then can I have people underneath me become the author of other people's performance? And then what does that look like for a leadership quality to have others mentoring others in a business that garners and shapes a development architecture for each person as they move through spaces of being effective in life? As businesses grow, so should the person who is holding the business and able to command that business from larger and larger spaces of what they can see, what they can hold, and what they can manifest in other people and in their business around them. But so few people make those transitions. They don't see those transitions about what they can hold. But Trevor, you're one of those people.
Thank you. I mean, and that's because I've been, brought under your fold, thankfully because of my association with North & Co. and them introducing me to you and the performance initiative, and then us, taking off on individual coaching. But I mean, like what you said, it's, if we rewind the tape and you go back to they don't know what the next thing is. Like most entrepreneurs are just head down, like, dude, I'm just doing the thing. I'm in the salt mine, I'm doing the thing, and they're not pulling up and doing the work, on the business. They're just working in the business. And you take it so with the way that you help your clients build their vision, you're taking it to the moon. Like, all right, what do you want out of the business? And it's like, well, I don't know. I want my family to be fed and be able to go on vacation. And it's like, okay, well then what? Well, I want to make a lot of money. It's like, oh, okay, well, but what does that money do? And then you start thinking, and like with you and I, like you kept challenging me to the point where I'm like, dude, all right, I want to spend 2 months out of the year traveling across this country with my family and enriching our life experiences. And you're like, that's it. That's it. That's your top line. Like, you want this out of life. Now let's build the business up. Let's reverse engineer that business to get you to this top line goal, which is enriching my life experiences with my family. Like, yes. Now, how do we do that? And then that's what we've worked on. And so it's the empowerment comes from not only like the other, coaches that I've dealt with, and they've been real estate specific. It's so like formulaic where it's like, well, listen, you want to make $500,000 a year. So you need to make 677 calls a day, which translates to 57 appointments in an afternoon, which translates to 7 listings a minute. And it's like, to what? Oh, and now you're going to make 500 grand. So there you go. It's like, it seems hollow. So it's just a different approach that, dude, I bought into. I've started speaking like you when it comes to like the management things that pop up. When people are talking about their businesses, it's like, well, have you done this and that? Like the language translates so universally. And once you hear it, you're like, God, it makes sense. It's not hard. But that leads me to my next question. How did you get going in this world? How did you know that you could help people to find their potential in their businesses and their human aptitude? I mean, that's really it, dude. Like, you're not only helping me build a business, but you're helping me to realize who I am as a person and as a leader and as a business owner. Like, there's so much, it's so dynamic. how do you even get going?
Oh, geez. Well, I remember there's two different answers to that question. I remember the first company that 12 years ago, the first company that I said, well, I'll double the size of your company and give me X amount of dollars and I'll double the size of your company. And he said, okay. And my palms were sweaty and I didn't know how to do it. And how the hell am I going to make that happen? And I had my tech company when I was younger. And then with the business that I worked in after I got out of that tech company, I had produced incredible results. And I thought that I was tracking on what was at the heart of producing results in business. But I remember the first time I said it out loud that I was going to do that. And I gave a price tag to what it was going to take for me to do that with somebody's business. It scared the crap out of me. And I think out of fear and panic alone, I generated the things that I needed to generate and the creativity necessary to make it happen. But that's not unlike the way that it was with the tech company. That's not completely unlike the way that it was with the business I worked in for 10 years after that. And there is trying to empower oneself with the weight of what is that purpose. And if that purpose really is what matters, then it is a little bit scary because you don't really know. Now that I've done it so many times, it doesn't scare me anymore. But every single time it's still new. How are we going to reverse engineer this particular set of outcomes? How are we going to get it done this time? So the first answer to how did I do it the first time was, I don't know, probably just panic. But I've been a student of the game of if you look at aptitude, you said you're helping me find a new level of aptitude. I've been a student of what that is. If aptitude is the set of what a human being can readily accomplish, let's just say that that's a human being's aptitude. What can they readily accomplish? Mm-hmm. What it is to be Trevor Halpern in terms of a quality of aptitude is an incredibly elastic concept. What it is to be Zanzibar and how much aptitude does Zanzibar have is an incredibly elastic concept. But the truth is it's that way for every human being. There is not one human being that has a static aptitude. It can grow, it can shrink. And I've learned over the years being a student of that game. I was really curious about that when I was 17 years old, and afterward graduating high school and getting into the technology field. I was a student of, well, what gives rise to the ability to accomplish results? Is it experience? No. Is it education? No. Is it somebody's genetics? Nope. Is it all their decisions they've made in the past? Mm-mm. So what is it? What is it? What gives rise to this thing called what somebody can readily accomplish? If we took a set of outcomes and we had 10 different people try to accomplish that set of outcomes, they'd all go about it in a different way, but they could all absolutely empower themselves to accomplish that set of outcomes. Nobody would be devoid of being able to get it done. We might go about it differently, but everybody has the capability of rising to the occasion to get it done. And silly examples, you could say, if somebody ran in here right now and said, Zanz, by some strange set of circumstances, you've got to fix the Panama Canal in 3 days or your daughter's going to die. All of a sudden I become the guy who fixes Panama Canals in 3 days. I'm not somebody who can do that. But then all of a sudden I can imagine myself becoming the guy that does that immediately and without hesitation. Yeah. So where does all that come from? Well, there are certainly things to train people in, to have them go through certain transitions in owning business at a higher and higher level, and owning executiveship at a higher and higher level, and owning leadership at the level of moving people to higher states of their own consciousness and ability to produce results as an executive. There are certain transitions to make, and I've learned how to take people through those transitions. But the truth is, a human being's aptitude ends up ridiculously elastic. There is not a human being that can't anything, I'm convinced. So I start with that premise that human beings are automatically amazing if they have their attention on the right things. And then it's our job as leaders to make sure that people keep moving forward in the right way and having their attention on the right things.
Well, and I think that encompasses so much of what you the baseline of how you instill this. What's interesting to me and what is instantly made me gravitate to you and your approach, and I suspect it's why Brian North gravitated to you, and why so many agents at North & Co., why so many other people even outside of our organization and in different industries gravitated. It's that higher consciousness thing, right? It's that, like, you know, you can pop in a training CDs and, you know, whatever. You can download programs, you can hear them, and it all just seems to be like a more of a money-based, a financial thing. And it's like, that's so little of what we talk about. I mean, yes, there are metrics that where it's easy to point to the result and say, or, you know, what's a pipeline forecast looking like? But that the idea of overlaying higher consciousness and pulling people, getting people to realize their aptitude and go up and reach it. At what point did you intermix that into what you do? Or has that always been part of it? Where did that portion, the like left brain, right brain, where did the super analytical, you know, Zanzibar get that like big heart, that big connectedness type vibe? Where'd that come from?
I think that came a long time ago. The first instance I had of that, I'm going to give you a strange story.
I love strange stories.
It's a weird story.
Yeah.
I was 15 years old, and I was in high school, and I got sent to drum major camp in Michigan. There was a college in the middle of Michigan, in Holland, Michigan. I can't remember which college it was. But it was a camp for drum majors. I was the drum major of the high school band. I was the junior drum major. I was the apprentice drum major for the high school band. And I remember I remember being there, and it was my second time. Actually, no, I was the drum major now. I was junior drum major for freshman year, and sophomore year I became the drum major of the band as he graduated. And I remember being there, and so much of my life to that point had been about me. And I don't know, it's just like my life was kind of, I saw this snapshot while I was talking with this one gal. I forget her name. She was, I don't know, young. She was in her mid-20s probably, and she was a drum major instructor, and she was, you know, she was a counselor at this camp. And I was talking with her, and I realized how much we weren't even talking about this. I don't even know why I had this realization. I had this realization talking to her, that so much of my life was based around me and having me be something in the world, and because of what I enjoyed or what I wanted to be or this or that. And when I was talking with her, it became obvious that there wasn't anything really truly fulfilling about chasing getting to be something in the world. All that was fulfilling was something that I could make happen in the world for others, or out in the world outside of me. And I remember having this like realization, like this epiphany moment where the clouds parted and the sun shone through. And I wish I could remember the gal's name. And I resolved that I was going to have the rest of my camp experience do nothing other than what was going to support what wanted to happen outside of me. Like I was going to help the instructors. I was going to help the other students. I was going to support whatever I needed to, but I was only going to be available to support people. And I didn't give a shit about myself for the rest of drum major camp. And I remember being addicted to that. I remember it was like, this is so much better than all of the concern that I put into it, looking good and being great and having people think of me well. And this is just so much better than all the shit that I concern myself with all the time. And I wasn't good at it at first, but at drum major camp, I was good at it. But then in my life with my family and my brothers and my sisters and my mom and I couldn't get along, I wasn't good at finding a way to translate that into life yet. It was for sure I found a way to do that as a drum major, but I didn't find a way to do that in life yet, really. And something over the next 10 years of my life, I found myself getting better and better at how do you find what purpose really matters rather than what I want or what is of concern to me, like being appreciated or looking good to other people or being well thought of or whatever the things are that I care about to myself in the privacy of my own thinking. I found a way to become more and more aligned with what truly matters in the world. And I think that moment at drum major camp was where it started.
Dude, how profound as a 15-year-old to have that realization and have that happen and guide your future from 15 on. I mean, that's pretty amazing. I mean, that's you touched on something 6 months ago or so. It's at the Magnus Project conference with you in Denver. Maybe it was longer than that, maybe a year ago, approaching it. And you had an anecdote, you had a story about a conversation that you had with your dad that literally changed my life. Like instantly, I felt one of those epiphany moments during the conference where I was like I applied what you said. And you know what I'm talking about? Are you willing to share that? Like, and how you were 17 when you had that conversation with your dad, right?
Which one are you talking about?
The one where you said, this is how I view you. This is who I know you are. And it was like that one.
I was 17 when I had that conversation.
Yeah. Will you explain that conversation? Because it had such an impact. Like, it's one that I go back to. I pull out mentally probably every 2 or 3 months.
Yeah, there was, I remember that I wanted to have, my dad and I didn't have much of a relationship. He and I got along pretty well, but we didn't have much of a relationship. He was a very stoic Sicilian man. If you had watched the movie The Godfather, he acted like that. Like, he was untouchable and very stoic and very right and wrong. Had a lot of integrity around what he believed in, was an entrepreneur, business owner, owned 9 businesses. He was, but very, very, very hard line around life, and kind of emotionally unavailable. Like, it left him not really connected with his kids. And I remember one night I had a conversation with him. Like, I just wanted him to know. And I remember telling him, I asked him it was late at night, and I asked him if he could, my dad liked to watch Jeopardy, and he would record a bunch of them, especially if he was out of town on business or something, and he'd come home and he'd watch the recordings of Jeopardy. Mm-hmm. And after every answer, this is Jeopardy, after every answer, he'd pause it to think of the question so that he'd have time to come up with the answer without having to ring the buzzer. And he'd come up with it, and then he'd play it. And, that's how he would reaffirm his intelligence every evening. And he was watching Jeopardy, and he was sitting at the edge. He would sit at the edge of the sofa, straight up in his chair, and he'd be like doing this to the television. I remember I asked him. I said, "Dad, can we talk for a few minutes?" And he said, "Sure." And he was still watching Jeopardy. I said, "Well, can we turn off Jeopardy for a couple of minutes?" And he was real annoyed. He looked at me like, "What the hell?" And he paused it. And he goes, "What?" And I was like, "Well, I don't really know what. I just wanted you to know that I really love so many things about you, and I've tried to model so much of myself after you, and the integrity that you live your life with, and how you operate in this world, and how you go out of your way to provide for us as a family, and what it means to be a strong man in America, and what that means to be to be a demonstration of strength and honor and integrity and a provider for family and all of those things. I want you to know those are things that I want to grow up to be in life, and I want to grow up to be those things because of you, and I watch how you do them." And it was the first time in my life I'd ever seen my dad cry, and I told him that that's who he is for me, and that's who he'll always be for me. Are those things, and that's true. And ever since that moment, I've had it be for me that it doesn't matter what my dad does. It's my job to have my dad be right. Whatever my dad does is perfect. And I don't care if he shoots me in the leg. If he shoots me in the leg, then I'm going to ask him to ride to the hospital with me and tell me a joke. I don't care. My dad can't. It's impossible for my dad to mess up. Everything he does is absolutely the thing that was supposed to, he was exactly what he was supposed to do. And he has that permission from me for the rest of his life.
Because so much of who he is grounded in what you told him. Like, it doesn't matter. This is who you are.
Yep. Not even because of, just separately. I just determined my dad no longer he gets a free pass. Anything. Anything that he does, I'm going to make it okay.
Now, so why does he get that? What allows him that?
Just generosity. It's just an act of generosity to give that to him. It's a grace to give someone. And very few people have that in my life, I realize. I don't give that grace to very many people.
It's super interesting. And it really is something that has been, it's been profound for me. And it's been profound in thinking through various relationships. And it is like, this is who you are. Like, I don't ever want people's, like, how they act to affect who they are, right? Like, okay, this is who you are, and let's not let the actions, allow to pull me away from who I know you to truly be. I don't know. That's just, to me, it's and especially coming from a 17-year-old kid, man, you had a lot going on in in the mind of Zanzibar from 15 to 17.
Yeah. I definitely danced to the tune of a different drummer, but some of my other friends did too. I had friends that were that way, and I've had mentors in life at an early age. Arthur Brock, one of them. I've had some really, really, really amazing mentors from a young age who are dialed into a very, very fine detail of what matters in life and looking at the right things.
It's so liberating. I mean, and that when you do focus, and that's so much what you do is focusing on what matters and how to empower it and how to move it forward. And that if you know what matters, and if you have the ability to do what matters, if you don't do it, then you're not fulfilling what you should be doing. Like, it's almost a shame if you know what you should be and could be doing that matters, and you're not doing it. It's wasting the life experience, and it's wasting your maximum potential.
I think it's the definition of all suffering. I think all suffering for human being does not come from circumstances. I think circumstances are indubitably survivable. I think that when a human being suffers, it's because they either are conscious enough to see what really matters and turned away from it for some reason, to be, judgmental or right, or for whatever reason, away from something, and then they suffer. Or they're not conscious enough to take it apart at a mental level. But even for human beings that aren't conscious enough to take that apart in a mental construct, all human beings are conscious enough intuitively and with their heart to feel what's on and what's off. And so even when somebody is not quite self-aware to be able to take it apart, they're still going to suffer. Human beings suffer if they're not able to empower what their heart and spirit is really attracted to, or what really matters. That's, to me, the definition of where suffering comes from.
I think that's so it's eye-opening when you think about it like that. And it's eye-opening to think about, it's the empowerment, right? And that's where you've given me so much strength in your processes and working with you. It's like, you want to do X, do it. Let's reverse engineer it. You can do it. Like, I think so much of why we sit in that zone of suffering, and like you said, is like, we don't feel empowered, right? We don't know what to do. We don't know how to do it. And some people find comfort in that self-flagellation, right? Like, that's just like their, as Al Fuentes said, that's like their boot up, the root software is just like going down that path, as opposed to saying, no, you can change it. And I think that's where, now that I've been down this path with you, now that we've gone, and now that I've seen my business molding it, instead of being like, like I'm working and things are coming and I'm working and I don't know why. Now that we're like focused and have a path and are driving, it is so empowering, and it is so like, it becomes a self-actualization thing. You start to see, like you said, you're like, and this may have been before we started recording, but it's like, you envision, being the guy. And I even said that to Beth the other day. It's like, you feel like you can be the guy, and then you start acting like the guy, and then you start becoming the guy, right? Now working with you, it's like, there's a path. It's not, on paper it's linear. We have things that come up that it's like, oh, well, now we're off to the side, and oh my God, we just took a step back, but like, let's go, like it's on paper linear, life happens and it gets disjointed, but you always see the target when you do it right. And it's just been all around, man, profound and empowering and soul filling. And it just makes you want to just keep going and like, what's next and what's next. It's like going on a pretty hike. You may be tired, but you're like, what's up around that corner? You just want to like keep going because you're in this zone of fun and beauty and creativity. And that's where like, that's one of the most profound things that you've said too to me, is that something to the effect, this is a paraphrase of Zanzibar the Great, is to that an entrepreneur is in their ultimate position when they're sitting in 100% space of creativity. Strip away all the nonsense, the tasky stuff, and have it so that your business is humming, so that you can sit there and be creative and think about what's next. Who am I going to work with next? What else can we be doing? And like that, there have been flashes in my business where I feel like I'm getting there. And we've talked about it. It's like, dude, I'm feeling like the creative juices are firing, because we only have so much capacity, right? And if my brain is at 110%, things are just falling out because I can't stay in. Like when I start taking those big chunks out and handing them off to staff, employees, and teammates, and I start handing that off, now there's a vacuum in there that gets filled with like, you know how my brain works. It gets filled first with craziness, then with then with creativity, and then with fun or whatever. But it gets filled. It gets filled with the good stuff instead of the heavy, nasty, gnarly stuff.
Yeah. So,
well, I think that's a good spot to jump off, man. We just burned about a half an hour. I can't wait to have you on for a full sesh. We're gonna get even deeper than we got. But thank you so much for coming on. Thank you for sharing, man. I love you so much, and I've learned so much from you about life and about business, and just about coming to things from the right direction. So thanks for the time today and always.
Love you too, bud. Thanks for having me on. And yeah, like, I can't wait. I can't believe we just talked for a half an hour.
That's crazy, man. Well, that makes what do we have? A total talk time today of 90 minutes. It's pretty good. All right. Thanks so much. We'll talk soon.
All right. Kick ass, bud.